as Mazda's powerful rotary engine takes center stage, raising eyebrows and sparking debate. Could this revolutionary technology redefine the landscape of the EV industry?
Mazda has just shocked the entire automotive world with a secret comeback that no one could have predicted. The company revealed a tiny yet powerful multi-fuel rotary engine that promises a longer driving range, faster refueling, and cleaner power compared to today's electric vehicles, all without relying on massive battery packs. Could this breakthrough really challenge the world's biggest EV giants and redefine the future of driving? From six-stroke technology to hydrogen-burning innovation, the details are truly staggering. Let's discover the rotary that could change everything. Mazda just dropped a bombshell that no one saw coming. The company that once symbolized the end of the rotary dream has returned to finish what it started. After years of silence, Mazda has announced that the rotary engine, the same design once written off as too inefficient, too polluting, and too impractical, has officially been declared feasible for production. So what exactly has Mazda built? Could this small spinning engine really outperform today's electric giants? And is it possible that one of the oldest forms of internal combustion is about to challenge the very foundation of the EV revolution? Mazda's announcement stunned both car enthusiasts and industry insiders as engineers revealed that the company has successfully developed a next-generation, multi-fuel rotary engine that can run on gasoline, hydrogen or synthetic fuels, and that flexibility alone places it in a completely different league. The new design reportedly features a lightweight two-rotor configuration, compact, balanced, and remarkably quiet. Its efficiency, Mazda claims, has been improved to the point that the engine can achieve emissions levels comparable to hybrid powertrains and, in some modes, even better. Compared to a standard four-cylinder engine, it's smaller, cleaner, simpler, and capable of producing consistent power with fewer moving parts. Mazda calls it the next evolution of the rotary concept, a design that finally overcomes the weaknesses that killed it a decade ago. Now, Mazda's engineering division stated that the rotary is feasible for mass production. In the background leading up to this, fans had been begging Mazda for years to revive the RX-7 spirit, but no one ever expected this level of commitment. Feasible for production means the company is in fact preparing for rollout and a fundamental rethinking of what an internal combustion engine can be in the 21st century. Mazda has claimed that the new rotary could actually outperform electric vehicles in three key areas: range, cost, and carbon footprint. According to early figures, the engine's compact size allows for lighter vehicle platforms that can achieve up to 600 miles of total driving range when paired with hybrid assistance. Because it doesn't depend on massive lithium-ion battery packs, manufacturing costs could be significantly lower. And unlike most EVs, whose production processes still rely on rare earth minerals and coal-powered factories, Mazda's approach could deliver a smaller total carbon footprint, especially when running on synthetic or hydrogen-based fuels. To understand why the automotive world reacted with such shock, you have to see the broader context. For nearly a decade, the global car industry has been locked into one narrative: batteries are the future, and everything else is obsolete. Governments have been setting deadlines to phase out internal combustion. Automakers have poured billions into EV production lines, and investors have treated electricity as the only path forward. Yet amid that electric certainty, Mazda quietly built an alternative, a technology that refuses to conform to the batteries or bust mentality. Electric vehicles are powerful symbols of progress, but they come with trade-offs that are becoming harder to ignore. Battery packs are extremely heavy, sometimes weighing over 1,000 pounds. They depend on lithium, nickel, and cobalt, materials often mined under harsh conditions and limited supply. Charging infrastructure, even in developed nations, struggles to keep pace with demand. And while EVs produce zero emissions on the road, their manufacturing and power generation footprints are far from clean. In many regions, electricity still comes from fossil fuels, meaning that the zero emissions label can be misleading. Mazda's engineers claim their Rotary hybrid sidesteps all of this. By combining an ultra-efficient combustion system with electric assistance, it can achieve the same real-world efficiency as an EV, without depending on the grid or on scarce minerals. Refueling takes minutes, not hours. There's no range anxiety, no infrastructure bottleneck, and no degradation of massive batteries over time. In theory, this design offers EV-like performance with the flexibility of traditional refueling. The idea that Mazda, a company with 1/10 the resources of Tesla or Toyota, could unveil something that upends the entire EV narrative seemed impossible until it wasn't. But the biggest shock was still to come. Alongside the production feasibility statement, Mazda filed patents for something that didn't even sound real: a 6-stroke rotary piston hybrid system. How can a 6-stroke engine even exist when the world has spent a century perfecting the 4-stroke cycle? Well, the new system adds 2 extra strokes to the combustion process, reusing exhaust gases to extract hydrogen directly from gasoline while the engine runs. In simple terms, it turns part of its own emissions into clean-burning fuel on the fly. The result is dramatically lower carbon dioxide output and higher thermal efficiency, essentially squeezing every last bit of energy out of the fuel before anything is wasted. To understand how revolutionary this is, think of it like this. Traditional engines burn fuel once and release the waste as exhaust. Mazda's 6-stroke system burns it twice, using heat and pressure to recover lost energy while neutralizing most of the pollution that would normally escape. This design acts as a bridge between internal combustion and hydrogen fuel cells. It's not fully electric, and it's not fully traditional. Instead, it's a hybrid of both worlds. By extracting hydrogen during operation, the engine can operate with near-zero tailpipe emissions under certain conditions, all while using existing refueling networks. If Mazda succeeds in bringing this to mass production, it could render many of today's EV assumptions obsolete. Why invest billions in new charging grids when a car can achieve similar results using a cleaner, self-sustaining fuel process? Why commit to massive batteries that degrade over time when a rotary engine can provide the same range with a fraction of the weight and materials? And what happens to the market dominance of EV manufacturers if a small Japanese company proves that combustion technology still has room to evolve? For decades, the world has been told that innovation means abandoning combustion altogether. Mazda's breakthrough argues the opposite, that progress can come from perfecting what others have given up on. Guardians of a secret dream. There was a time when Mazda's entire identity was built on the Rotary engine, this strange, beautiful piece of engineering that no one else dared to pursue. In the late 1970s and 1980s, when most car makers were refining piston engines, the company was instead focusing on a compact rotary design that replaced pistons with a spinning triangular rotor. It was smaller, lighter, and capable of revving far higher than traditional engines, producing a sound unlike anything else on the road, a sharp, almost mechanical wail that car enthusiasts still remember decades later. With fewer moving parts, the Rotary ran smoother than a piston engine, and its compact size allowed Mazda to build cars that handled like precision instruments. For a moment, it looked as though Mazda had discovered the future of performance engines. The RX-7 became the Rotary's shining star. It was agile, perfectly balanced, and engineered around that compact engine sitting low and far back in the chassis. Drivers loved the feeling of connection, the effortless power delivery, and the sheer character that came from the Rotary's unique sound and smooth acceleration. In the 1990s, the RX-7 was seen as the definition of Japanese sports car innovation, rivaling machines from brands with 10 times Mazda's budget. But Rotary engines, for all their advantages, had a dark side. They burned oil by design, which helped lubricate the rotor seals but produced high emissions. Their fuel consumption was high, and maintaining peak performance required precise tuning. The apex seals, the tiny components responsible for sealing the combustion chamber, were notoriously fragile, especially under hard driving. What made the engines so thrilling also made it temperamental. And as environmental regulations tightened around the world, the Rotary's weaknesses became impossible to hide. The very same qualities that made it feel alive, its free revving nature and high combustion temperatures, also made it dirty and inefficient by modern standards. By the mid-2000s, the RX-8 was Mazda's last attempt to keep the Rotary dream alive. It was lighter, more refined, and more efficient than its predecessors, but it still struggled to meet increasingly strict emissions laws. Governments across Europe and North America were cracking down on fuel economy and carbon output, and the RX-8 simply couldn't keep up. In 2012, Mazda made the painful decision to end Rotary production altogether. The company shifted its focus toward its Skyactiv technologies, ultra-efficient piston engines, and lightweight designs that aim to balance performance with fuel economy. Mazda's marketing began emphasizing sustainability and refinement rather than raw performance. To outsiders, it looked like the company had finally accepted that the Rotary belonged to the past. But deep within Mazda's headquarters in Hiroshima, a small group of engineers refused to give up. During this so-called silent decade, small clues began to appear that Mazda hadn't completely buried the Rotary. Patents filed in Japan hinted at hybrid Rotary configurations, hydrogen-powered designs, and range extender applications for electric vehicles. Occasionally, Mazda would release a quiet statement about ongoing research into Rotary technology, but nothing concrete ever followed. Still, these were sparks of hope that the Rotary wasn't gone, it was evolving. So why did Mazda choose this moment, after years of silence, to bring the Rotary back? Because now, the 2020s have exposed cracks in the electric vehicle revolution. The promise of clean, affordable EVs for everyone has collided with the reality of expensive batteries, long charging times, and strained power grids. Even as governments push for electrification, the global supply chain for lithium and rare earth materials has become increasingly unstable. Building millions of electric cars requires massive energy, new infrastructure, and materials that the world doesn't yet have in abundance. At the same time, the conversation around clean energy has become more complex. Scientists and policymakers now recognize that reaching carbon neutrality may require multiple technologies working together: electric, hydrogen, synthetic fuels, and efficient combustion engines, all playing different roles. That shift in mindset created the perfect opening for Mazda. When the industry began looking beyond a single one-size-fits-all solution, Mazda saw an opportunity to reintroduce the Rotary, this time not as a rebellious sports car engine, but as a flexible, adaptable platform for the clean energy era. Mazda's engineers argue that the Rotary's compact design makes it an ideal hybrid power source. It's small enough to fit almost anywhere, light enough to offset battery weight, and efficient enough, when redesigned, to compete with next-generation EV systems. And with global interest rising in hydrogen and synthetic fuels, Mazda found itself perfectly positioned. Governments across Europe and Asia are now investing heavily in hydrogen production and carbon-neutral fuel technologies, and Mazda's new Rotary can run on both. The timing couldn't have been better, and the same engine that once symbolized failure now represents hope that the next generation of cars might be clean, powerful, and human once again. The hidden advantage: EVS fear. Mazda's latest Rotary engine is a challenge to the assumptions that built the modern electric vehicle industry. The question now isn't whether it can compete, but whether it can completely rewrite the rules of what clean energy driving actually means. At the heart of this disruption lies the Rotary's hidden superpower: its simplicity. A traditional piston engine has hundreds of moving parts, pistons going up and down, valves opening and closing, and complex timing systems. The Rotary replaces all of that with a single triangular rotor spinning smoothly within an oval-shaped housing. That design means it's incredibly compact, about 1/3 the size of a comparable piston engine, and weighs far less. In hybrid configurations, that matters. A lighter engine means less overall vehicle weight, better handling, and greater efficiency. It also means Mazda can pair it with smaller batteries, cutting costs and avoiding the need for massive packs filled with lithium, nickel, and cobalt. The 6-stroke rotary design takes that efficiency to a level that sounds almost futuristic. Traditional engines complete 4 strokes: intake, compression, combustion, and exhaust. But Mazda's new design adds 2 extra steps that recycle the heat and gases left over from combustion. By reusing this energy, the Rotary generates additional power while drastically reducing emissions. Even more impressive is its ability to extract hydrogen directly from gasoline while it runs. In simple terms, it partially converts regular fuel into hydrogen inside the engine, then burns that hydrogen more cleanly. This internal mini hydrogen reactor effect means the Rotary can achieve near zero carbon output without relying on expensive hydrogen infrastructure. Here's the shocker. While other companies are building bigger batteries to chase more range, Mazda is squeezing more power from every drop of fuel. That's a completely different philosophy. Instead of trying to eliminate combustion, Mazda has made it smarter. Instead of waiting for a world where every highway has a charger, Mazda is building engines that don't need one. It's a solution that acknowledges the messy reality of global energy, the fact that millions of drivers still live in regions without charging networks, and that electricity itself isn't always clean or available. Another quiet advantage of Mazda's Rotary is its flexibility, as it can provide power in multiple ways. It can act as the main drive source, as a generator for a hybrid system, or as a compact range extender for electric vehicles. That means Mazda can design one engine architecture and use it across many types of cars, from sports coupes to family SUVs to delivery vans, without having to redesign everything from scratch. It can even run on multiple fuels: gasoline, synthetic fuel, hydrogen, or blends of each. This adaptability gives Mazda a resilience that most pure EV makers don't have. If the battery market faces shortages or synthetic fuels become mainstream, Mazda can pivot instantly. The result is an energy system that's lighter, cleaner, cheaper, and more versatile than the battery-only approach. For consumers, that could mean hybrid cars with 400 to 600 miles of range that refuel in 5 minutes and cost less than a comparable electric vehicle. For automakers, it means freedom from the global battery race that's driving up prices and straining resources. That brings us to the economic impact, and this is where Mazda's move could truly rattle the EV establishment. Electric vehicle production depends on a small number of materials: lithium, nickel, cobalt, manganese, and rare earth metals. Mining and refining these materials is expensive, energy-intensive, and concentrated in just a few countries. China, for example, dominates more than 70% of the world's lithium-ion battery supply chain. This dependence has created a bottleneck where car makers compete for limited materials, driving costs higher for everyone. Mazda's Rotary bypasses all of that. Its manufacturing doesn't rely on rare materials. It uses conventional metals, simple components, and fuels that can be distributed using existing global infrastructure. That means Mazda doesn't have to wait for governments to build charging stations or for new mines to open. It can scale production much faster, especially in developing nations where EV infrastructure is still years away. In places like Southeast Asia, Africa, and South America, where electricity grids are unstable or charging stations are rare, a hybrid Rotary system could become a far more practical alternative. Mazda's approach could undercut EV prices globally, Not because it's trying to replace electric vehicles, but because it's building a bridge between combustion and electrification that's cheaper, faster to deploy, and easier to maintain. Investors are beginning to notice. Analysts in Japan and Europe have already described Mazda's Rotary hybrid as a potential disruptor, and several automakers are reportedly studying similar six-stroke or hydrogen-assisted concepts of their own. Mazda's quiet persistence has suddenly made it the company everyone is watching. But can this rotary engine really destroy the EV industry? That depends on what we mean by destruction. Electric vehicles won't vanish overnight. They'll continue to dominate in markets where charging networks are strong and government subsidies remain generous. Yet Mazda's Rotary doesn't have to replace EVs to disrupt them. It only has to change the conversation. For years, the narrative has been that the future must be electric, that anything else is a step backward. Mazda has cracked that narrative open by proving that combustion can evolve, that it can be just as clean, efficient, and sustainable as batteries when done right. The biggest challenge Mazda faces now is scale. The company must prove that its six-stroke Rotary can meet global emission standards, deliver real-world durability, and achieve cost-effective mass production. Convincing customers that this is a new generation of Rotary, one that solves those old problems, will take time and real-world proof. But even if Mazda doesn't dominate sales immediately, the very existence of this technology forces every major automaker to rethink their approach. If the Rotary succeeds, EV makers will need to accelerate innovation, cut costs, and diversify their designs. Battery research will shift toward lighter, more sustainable materials. Hybrid systems may evolve to use multiple energy sources rather than relying on massive lithium packs. In that sense, Mazda doesn't need to kill the EV industry. It just needs to make it grow up. Mazda's philosophy has always been rooted in human connection. Its engineers design cars around how they feel to drive, not just how they perform on paper, a cultural concept known as Jimba Itai, or the unity between horse and rider. In a world where cars are becoming quieter, heavier, and increasingly detached from their drivers, Mazda's engineers are preserving the idea that technology should still feel alive in your hands. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Click the next video for more exciting content.